We are all in search of something that gives direction and meaning to our lives. Peace, clarity, security, hope, or love. On this feast of the Epiphany, the readings reveal to us that Christ is the true light who comes to guide every nation and every heart. The first reading, taken from the prophet Isaiah, was written at a time when the people of Israel were returning from exile in Babylon. Jerusalem had been destroyed, the temple lay in ruins, and the people felt weak, discouraged, and forgotten. Into this darkness, the prophet speaks powerful words. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. It is a message meant to awaken hope in a tired people. The passage describes darkness covering the earth, but God's light shining especially on Jerusalem. Wealth, gifts, and people flow in, not to glorify the city itself, but to show that God is at work there again. Gold and frankincense are mentioned as signs of honor, joy, and worship. It is interesting to note, but we don't see a mention of myrrh here. Why is that? Myrrh was used to embalm bodies and therefore points forward to Jesus' passion and death. The Feast of the Epiphany celebrates the revelation of Jesus as the light of the world, not only for Israel but for all nations. For us today, this reading is a call to rise from discouragement and fear. Even when life feels dark, God's light is already present. Epiphany reminds us that this light is meant to be shared. When we live with faith, kindness, and justice, we reflect Christ's light, and others are drawn not to us but to God. We need to ask, are we drawing people closer to God by our lives? In the second reading, taken from St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians, St. Paul speaks about a mystery that has been now revealed through the Spirit. The heart of this mystery is very simple yet revolutionary. God's salvation is for everyone. Paul clearly states that the Gentiles are now co-heirs, members of the same body, and sharers in the promise in Jesus Christ. This was shocking in Paul's time. For centuries, many believed that God's promises belonged mainly to Israel. Now, through Jesus, the boundaries are broken down. No group is outside God's loving plan. Paul also speaks of his own role in this revelation. He sees himself not as the owner of the message, but as a steward of God's grace. What he has received, he must share. The good news is not meant to be kept within a small circle. It is meant to be proclaimed so that all can hear and respond. Just as the Magi came from far away to worship Christ, Paul proclaims that people from every background are now invited into God's family. Faith in Christ, not race, culture, or status, is what unites us. For us today, this passage is both comforting and challenging. It reminds us that we belong to God not because we earned it, but because of grace. At the same time, it challenges us to remove barriers we place between insiders and outsiders. For example, language, background, status, or past mistakes. The church is called to be a living sign of this mystery, one body open to all, sharing the same hope in Christ. A group of friends once went shopping in a very large market to buy oranges. One of them insisted that all follow him as he knows the place. They kept on going in circles around the market, but never found the oranges. Exasperated, one of them asked for directions from a bystander, only to be told that they were in the completely wrong area. They followed this man's instructions and reached the destination fairly quickly. Sometimes we keep going in circles because we trust our own certainty more than God's guidance. The journey of the Magi in today's Gospel, taken from Matthew, reminds us that finding Jesus often requires courage to search, humility to ask, and readiness to change our path. The Gospel tells us about the Magi, wise men from the east who notice a star and begin a long journey in search of a newborn king. They are not Jews, yet they are seekers. The Magi do not have all the answers, but they are attentive to signs and willing to move. Are we searching for Jesus, or are we too settled to begin the journey? The Gospel also shows us the forces of good and evil at work. Herod represents fear, insecurity, and the desire to control. He pretends to want to worship Jesus, but his heart is full of violence. The Magi, on the other hand, represent openness, truth, and sincere desire for God. This contrasts reminds us that these same forces exist within our own lives. There are moments when we seek God honestly and moments when we resist Him because He challenges our comfort or power. Do I have an attitude like Herod or like the Magi? This passage speaks strongly about the need for discernment. The Magi listen to Herod, but they do not blindly obey him. They pay attention to God's warning in a dream and choose a different route home. Discernment means listening carefully and having the courage to change direction when God asks us to. While Isaiah gave us a partial picture, the nations coming with honor and praise, Matthew in his gospel completes it by showing that this king will also be a suffering servant. Gold reminds us that Jesus is king. This invites us to ask, who truly has authority in my life? Myself, my fears, or Christ? Frankincense points to Jesus as God. It challenges us to reflect, do I give God my time, prayer, and trust, or only what is convenient? Myrrh speaks of suffering and sacrifice. It asks us honestly, am I willing to offer my struggles, pain, and sacrifices to God? Like the Magi, we too are to greet the baby Jesus with gifts. What gift are you bringing to the child Jesus? Perhaps not something perfect, but something honest. Like the Magi, may we continue to search, discern wisely, and return home changed by the encounter with Christ. May God bless us all.